What if the last photos of extinct animals weren't just sad, but terrifying? What if some reveal secrets never meant to be seen? Here are 7 extinct animals and the haunting final images captured before they disappeared. Number 1. The Caspian tiger. The Caspian tiger was once among the largest cats to ever walk the earth. It prowled the forest near the Caspian Sea through Iran, Turkey, and Central Asia. Males weighed nearly 240 kilograms. They had thick fur that protected them from harsh mountain winters. They hunted wild pigs, jackals, and deer. For centuries, they lived in balance with humans. But in the early 1900s, everything changed. The Soviet government launched a massive land reclamation program. They decided there was no room for tigers. They gave orders to kill every tiger found near the sea. But the army carried out the order. Hunters followed, clearing forests for cotton and rice. The tigers retreated to the mountains. By the 1950s, they were gone. In 1948, the final tiger in Kazakhstan disappeared. By the 1970s, scientists searched for survivors. They found nothing. But here is the twist. In 1998, a Turkish hunter claimed he saw a large tiger-like animal in the mountains near Iran. He described the stripes, the size, the way it moved. He had hunted all his life. He knew what he saw. Then, in 2015, researchers set up camera traps in the same region. They didn't capture a tiger, but local shepherds told stories of a striped cat that took livestock from remote pastures. They called it the mountain ghost. Scientists remain skeptical, but the Caucasus Mountains contain vast, unexplored wilderness. Our recent genetic studies suggest the Caspian tiger's bloodline lives on in the Siberian tiger. They are so closely related that some believe a shadow of the Caspian might one day return. Or maybe it never left. Number 2. The Western black rhino. Long ago, Africa had a powerful giant. The Western black rhinoceros lived across the forests of West and Central Africa. A living tank with thick gray skin folded like armor. On its head stood 2 horns made of keratin, the same material as your hair and nails. For thousands of years, it thrived quietly. It had no natural enemies. Until humans decided its horns were worth more than gold. In China and Vietnam, people believed rhino horn carried healing powers. There was no science behind it, but the myth grew stronger. In Yemen, the curved horns became prized for dagger handles. The price soared. Hunters slaughtered without mercy. They shot from helicopters. They poisoned water holes. They wiped out entire herds in a single night. By 2000, only 10 remained. In 2005, after years without a sighting, the Western black rhino was declared extinct. It was one of several subspecies of the black rhino. While other black rhino populations still survive, this particular subspecies vanished forever. But here's the strange thing. In 2012, a French researcher traveled through northern Cameroon, an area so remote it takes weeks to reach. He interviewed local villagers who described seeing a large, dark animal with 1 horn in the deep forest. They called it the ghost of the forest. He couldn't verify their claims. The area was too dangerous for an expedition, but the villagers had no reason to lie. They didn't know the animal was supposed to be extinct. Today, the region remains unexplored. Conflict keeps researchers out. Did the last Western black rhinos die, or did they just learn to hide? Number 3. The Booble hartebeest. The Booble hartebeest made history without meaning to. Scientists described it in 1766, the very first hartebeest ever studied. Its sandy fur blended perfectly into the northern African desert. For thousands of years, it wandered from Egypt to Morocco. Only the Barbary lion could take it down. Everything fell apart in the early 1800s. France seized Algeria. Hunters flooded the region. They slaughtered entire herds for sport. The population collapsed. By the early 1900s, only small groups remained. Hunters kept closing in. 1917 brought a terrible discovery. Someone found 15 animals, one of the last wild herds. He killed all but 3. Look closely at this photograph. It was taken at the Paris Zoo in 1923. You are seeing the final image of a Booble hartebeest ever recorded. This creature spent its last days behind bars. 2 years later, the last wild one fell to a hunter's gun. Thousands of years of survival. wiped out in less than a century. But here is what haunts biologists. In the 1930s, a French officer in the Sahara wrote of seeing a small herd that matched no known species. They had the distinctive shoulder hump and curved horns of the booble. He tried to track them, but they vanished into the dunes. His superiors dismissed it. In the 1950s, a Tuareg nomad described an animal his grandfather called the desert's shadow. No photographs exist, but the Sahara is vast and largely unexplored. It swallows entire caravans without a trace. Now, could it hide a small herd of antelope? The desert keeps its secrets well. Number 4. The Kauai-o-o. Around 15 million years ago, a family of birds arrived in Hawaii. They evolved into something found nowhere else, the Hawaiian honey-eaters, known for their haunting songs. The Kauai-o-o was one of them, a small forest bird with glossy black feathers. A call that males use to attract mates. For millions of years, they filled the islands with music. When Europeans came in 1778, they brought cats, rats, and mosquitoes. 3 species disappeared, leaving only 1. By 1960, fewer than 40 remained. In 1970, someone captured the only known footage of this bird. They were filming a ghost. He died singing to an empty forest. But here's the strange thing. In the years after, hikers in the remote Alakai Swamp reported hearing something. A single note, high and clear, something that matched the recordings. Scientists dismissed it, but the reports kept coming. As recently as 2018, an experienced birder claimed he heard a single call while hiking in an area so remote it takes 3 days to reach. He knew the recordings. He knew what he heard. He stayed for hours hoping for a response. None came, but he heard it again just once, fading into the mist. The forest is vast, the birds are small, and hope dies last of all. Yet number 5, the dodo. It has become the symbol of extinction. But there is a problem with its story. The dodo disappeared in the late 1600s, nearly 150 years before the first camera was invented. So how can there be a final photograph? The image you are seeing is not of a living bird, but something more haunting. It is the Oxford dodo, the last preserved remains of the only dodo ever brought to Europe with its skin intact. In 1755, the museum director noticed it was rotting and ordered it burned. At the last second, a worker reached into the fire and saved the head and 1 foot. This photograph is the final record of the only soft tissue left on Earth from a dodo. The dodo was not the fat, clumsy bird from cartoons. It was a sleek, flightless relative of the pigeon that lived only on Mauritius. It had no predators. No, so when Dutch sailors arrived in 1598, the dodo simply stood and watched. It was not stupid. It just did not know how to be afraid. We brought rats and pigs that feasted on their ground nests. By 1693, the dodo was gone. But here is what keeps researchers awake. For decades after the last sighting, sailors on Mauritius reported seeing large, flightless birds in the island's most inaccessible forest. In the 1660s, a shipwrecked sailor claimed he encountered dodos repeatedly. In the 1700s, French settlers reported strange footprints. The island has deep gorges and caves few have explored. Could a small population have survived longer? In 2006, a researcher found evidence that dodos may have persisted until the 1690s, 30 years longer than believed. If they survived that long, who says they couldn't have survived longer? Yet the island was vast, the hunters were few, and the dodo knew how to hide. Number 6. The pink-headed duck. At first glance, this bird looked like something from a painting. The male had a soft pink head fading into a brown body, a color found nowhere else. It lived in the swamps of India, Myanmar, and Bangladesh. For centuries, it thrived in dense reeds, hiding so well that many thought it was rare. But it wasn't rare. It was just shy. The pink-headed duck never migrated. It stayed in one place, year after year. That decision proved fatal. British colonists drained wetlands for farming. Hunters discovered its striking plumage and began collecting them as trophies. By the early 1900s, sightings became rare. The last confirmed wild bird was shot in June 1935 in India. The hunter didn't know what he had killed until his dog retrieved it. To look closely at this photograph, it was taken around 1925 in England, showing a pair in captivity. They were among the last of their kind. But here is the twist. For decades after 1935, villagers along the Gangetic Plains reported seeing pink-headed ducks in remote swamps. The reports were always the same: a flash of pink disappearing into tall reeds. In the 1980s, a team of ornithologists mounted an expedition to northern Myanmar, where rumors persisted of a surviving population. They spent weeks in the field. They found nothing, but they admitted the area was vast, the swamps nearly impenetrable, and the duck incredibly shy. Over 80% of the region's wetlands have never been systematically searched. The pink-headed duck was declared extinct in 1949, but extinction requires proof of absence. In those swamps, absence is very hard to prove. Number 7. The laughing owl. This was one of the strangest birds to ever live in New Zealand. Instead of nesting in trees, it preferred dark caves. At night, it slipped out to hunt, moving silently through the darkness. But what set it apart was its call. Imagine walking through the New Zealand night and suddenly hearing what sounded like a person laughing in the distance. That sound was not human. It was the laughing owl. Early settlers were amazed, but amazement turned to destruction. They brought rats and cats that raided every nest. They shot the owls for sport. By 1914, the last known laughing owl was seen. Look closely at this photograph. That final bird stuffed and mounted behind glass represents a voice that will never be heard again. Or will it? Until the 1940s, farmers in remote parts of New Zealand reported hearing that unmistakable laugh echoing from the hills at night. One farmer said, "I heard it 3 times over 2 years. The first time I thought it was a man. The second time I knew it wasn't. The third time I stayed indoors after dark." Scientists dismissed these reports, but the farmers knew the difference. The laughing owl's call was unforgettable. For years after it was declared extinct, something was still laughing in the dark. For countless generations, these creatures endured predators, shifting climates, and disasters. They adapted, they evolved, they thrived, but in the end, they could not survive us. Or could they? The forests are deep, the swamps are vast, the mountains are empty. Somewhere out there, maybe one of them is still watching. These photographs are the last proof they were ever here, but they might not be the last proof they exist.